famous number that means something extraordinary is about to happen both on the track and at the box office. Last time Nigel Mansell paraded Red 5 in Britain, an extra 100,000 turned up at the Silverstone Grand Prix. Now he'd put 50,000 on the gate at Donington. The man's a sporting hero, and the famous flourishing signature is something to treasure. But Mansell's a single-seater hero, and the crowd knew he'd been ordinary in qualifying because the lessons of IndyCar and the experience of Formula One count for little in touring cars.
You just can't compare. I mean, it's something totally different. I mean, you got no wings on the front or back to adjust, and you know, it's sort of, in some regards, it's more sensitive. You got to learn what the car will do and what it's capable of, not what you want it to do. And so you have to drive around a lot of things, and of course, not driven them for the best part of 12 years. They've moved on somewhat from when I last got in it.
Okay, go.
Touring car racing in general has become serious business in recent years, and although this was meant to be a relaxed event, there was a serious atmosphere in Mansell's pit, the professionalism of Andy Rouse having much to do with that. By contrast, Derek Warwick was having a more light-hearted build-up.
On the grass, don't lift off. Huh? Even on the grass, don't lift off. I tell you, the times I've been on the grass, coming down the back straight, after, yeah.
Fucking right, you said you hadn't been off.
Just a couple.
John Cleland and Will Hoy were sidelined for the day, and other top stars of the championship were also absent. The newly crowned champion Joe Winkelhock was not entered. This was a far from competitive touring car field, but Mansell was there, and so intriguingly was Steve Soper, the quickest men at the back in this shuffled field. So the names at the front, acknowledged as the slower men, they would get a few brief laps of glory before the talent at the back caught up. That at least was the plan. Tiff Needell had a Vauxhall Cavalier ahead of Derek Warwick, Mansell on row 7, and Paul Radisic, Mansell's teammate, was the quickest touring car man at the end of last season, underlining it with victory in the unofficial World Championship at Monza. Pop singer Chris Rea made a guest appearance at the back of the grid. Wouldn't be a major factor, but Mansell certainly would, as John Cleland joins commentator Steve Slater for the opening exchanges.
The Class 4 stalls on the line. It's David Pinkney leading Ian Khan and Alex Portman. The rest of the field squeezed through. Steve Soper, the field parting ahead of him to reveal Zwart. Down to Redgate corner. Dave Pinkney leads from Ian Khan, but a squeal of tyres. That's Alex Portman off. Derek Warwick in trouble too. John Cleland, what happened?
Well, Alex obviously got well sideways in the first corner and spun. Unfortunately, Derek Warwick got boxed in, and poor old Patrick hit him. So it looks like the front near side suspension has broken in Patrick's car. He's clearly out of the race.
Well, Patrick Watts out of the car. Very unhappy, but look behind him down at the old hairpin. Class 4 into the gravel trap, and that's 3 cars out in just 2 corners.
Well, Alex Portsman's race is obviously well run. And unfortunately so Schwartz. That's the end of his first touring car round. Ends up in the Donington gravel.
Mansell, however, had somehow managed to escape all that to make just the kind of charging start the big crowd hoped for. He'd got to 4th from 13th on the starting grid, but 4th place is now under threat, and this quick glance across is to check the position of the challenging Tiff Needell.
And Needell pulls across to stop Mansell, and actually blocks him very nicely there into the chicane. Yep, he's going to make him go the long way round. Beautiful, nicely done, Tiff.
Needell up to 4th place, Mansell down to 5th. Across the line, the order is Khan, Pinkney, Neal, Needell, Mansell and Rob Gravett. So let's take another look at the start with you, John.
Well, we're on board with Nigel here as we go down to Redgate, and you can see Needell gets it on the grass to avoid a spinning Portman. Unfortunately, Derek Warwick comes across and hits Patrick, and Nigel ends up on the grass and manages to avoid the whole thing. Beautiful piece of driving.
But the opening corner hadn't been quite so beautiful for Derek Warwick, who was fulfilling a long-term favour to Park Lane Racing's Roland Dane in taking the wheel of the Toyota. It was going to be a very expensive favour because a few laps later, Warwick was out for good. He'd enjoyed himself, but he'd never really got racing at all.
They were the guys that were doing the racing, I was doing the following. You know, it's just hope the car's not too bad. It looks like nothing that time and money won't put right.
Out on the track, the race was on, but Mansell was starting to lose touch. From 4th place, he dropped down to 7th. teammate Radicic had got in front. This is the view looking back from Radicic's Mondeo at Mansell, and looming in Mansell's mirrors now is the BMW of Steve Soper. There seemed to be no way Mansell would hold him off.
Yes, as they go down to Redgate, Radic leads Mansell, and a big flame from Mansell's car there. Maybe he's got some form of a problem.
Well, Paul Radicic is definitely on a charge, past Matthew Neal for 5th place. Meanwhile, Mansell is defending hard from Steve Soper. Maybe he really does have a problem.
Well, he could well have, but there was a massive flame there, and I think, yes, we have another flame there, and he gets well sideways. Nigel, he nearly took out Steve Soper. That was very lucky for Nigel.
So Soper up to 7th place, Mansell down to 8th, and now Rob Gravitt in the Peugeot's closing.
Mansell had a chronic misfire and his position was becoming hopeless. It seemed that 66,000 would go home disappointed, denied the chance of seeing Mansell challenge or charge. And the frustration was showing inside Red 5 as well.
The engine is cutting out!
Oh, this is a joke. Everyone's passing me down the straight. And this is such a shame because I'm enjoying it.
Hope would lie for Mansell in the regular appearance of the pace car that kept the field bunched up, but Mansell no longer figured in the battle for the lead. David Leslie headed the field from Ian Khan, Paul Radicic in 3rd, and then a hard-charging Tiff Needell who was holding off Steve Soper but had lost a wing mirror in the process. Needell proving a real handful for Radicic in front as well. Leslie leading from Khan, Radicic, Needell and Soper. Mansell desperate to be part of this kind of battle. And as the pace car was brought out one more time, Mansell was able to relay news back to his pit that set the contest alight once again.
I fixed the problem. It was the fuel pump.
So Mansell was able to join the queue behind the pace car, knowing that when the green flag came out, he once again had the power to get back through the field.
Okay, it was the fuel pump. I've switched the pump up the other way. The engine's working fine now, over. Hey, I lost 6-7 laps there till I was figuring out what was going on. Because I'm just happy it's come back.
Racing again, Paul Radicic muscles to the front. Mondeo leads the race. That could be good for Mansell. And Mansell was coming through the field in his own forceful style.
Hey, I tell you, this is fun. Now the engine's come back. Well, men, however it turns out, it's been fantastic. It really has, and I'd just like to thank you all for, getting me this far. And to be out here on a pace lap with all these people, I can tell you, you could almost cry for that too. It's just fantastic. And these cars are a lot of fun, as long as you know what the other chap's doing.
Faithful words to his pit crew as Mansell, now up to 5th, prepared to challenge the leaders over the closing laps.
The green flag waves, it's go, and Paul Radicic snatches the lead from David Leslie, then Tiff Needell, Steve Soper 4th, Nigel Mansell 5th, Rob Gravitt 6th, and Dave Poynt's battered Peugeot missing its back bumper in 7th.
We're inside car with Nigel now as he chases Steve Soper underneath the Dunlop Bridge. They're doing about 150 miles an hour here, and you can see the light on the dash is Nigel's gear change light. Steve blocks him quite nicely there and makes Nigel go the long way round about. Good blocking move, Steve.
Out of the S's, across the start line, and Mansell is right under Soper's back bumper. Into Redgate corner, Mansell looks at the outside line. Mondeo bucking and weaving, under-braking, but Soper closes the door.
Don't speak too soon. Nigel's got the best line for this corner, Steve. And yes, he's managed it. He's pulled in front of Steve Soper.
And And a huge cheer from the crowd. Mansell beats Soper in a straight fight to take 4th place. Radisich still leads the 2 Ecuriacos cars, but Mansell's using all the curbs at the old hairpin. He's right on the limit.
Yes, he really is working hard in there. These cars have no power steering and they're very physical cars to drive. Yeah, you can hear Nigel grunting in that. He's using muscles he's never used in a single-seater before. They are not easy cars to drive.
Ford, Vauxhall, BMW and Peugeot all in the top 6 as Dave Coyne moves up to pass his teammate Gravett for that 6th place. Nigel Mansell is concentrating on catching Tiffany Dell for that 3rd place. Down the Starkey straight, then hard onto the brakes. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Down the gearbox for the S's. Mansell closing on Nidell and Soper right behind him. Now down the pit straight to Redgate corner. This could be where he makes his move.
Yeah, just listen to the crowd cheer here. They want Nigel to pass. Yes, he's out and he's passed Tiffany Dell. He's moved up a place. Listen to them cheer. They just love this guy. And he pushes Tiff out wide and Tiff loses a wing mirror into the bargain.
And Soper follows Mansell through to take 4th place. Down the Craner curves, down to the old hairpin. Mansell is right on the limit. He locks his rear wheel. The car sideways, opposite lock, it's on the curbs, fighting for control. Soper goes through. He's clipped Nidell, he's off. And a huge impact. Nigel Mansell very still inside the car. Steam, smoke. Look at that damage and fire from a brake disc. This is a disaster. The marshals quickly on the scene. The race is being stopped. John, what happened?
Well, as you can see, Nigel just locked a brake on the way into the old hairpin and touched the inside curb there and got very, very much oversteer. Tried to correct it, maybe a little bit too much there with the lack of power steering. Steve managed to get through and Tiff braked hard to try to avoid him, but unfortunately, Nigel's hit very hard. That is an enormous accident. That is one of the biggest saloon car accidents I've ever seen. Here we are inside with Nigel, down through the Craner curves. He changes down to 5th gear, gets it on the curb, a little bit loose. You can see how you can hear him fighting with the car. Oh. That was the end of the onboard camera. Here we have another shot of the accident. He gets it well loose. And Tiff, unfortunately, has nowhere to go and collects Nigel, and the car is completely destroyed. Well written off.
No rescuing the car, but the news from the crash scene was encouraging. Mansell, after briefly losing consciousness, appeared to have escaped serious injury. Up with the leaders at the time of the crash was David Leslie.
But he came out of the old hairpin and I watched in the mirror to see him get a slide on. Then I carried on with what I was doing the last I seen, and now I see it's in a big heap.
You know as well as anyone how these cars can really bite back at you if you do get it wrong.
Oh yes, once it starts swaying from one side to the other, you haven't got a hope of catching it. The best thing is to look for something soft to hit after that.
While Mansell was recovering, the remaining 8 cars contested a 6-lap sprint for victory. And pretty soon Steve Soper was recovering his familiar form to squeeze past Radisich into the lead. And that's a move that certainly didn't impress the New Zealander. Soper then had David Leslie pushing him hard. Leslie was the quicker, he had a tyre advantage as well. Leslie through on the approach to the chicane, and Radisich into second. A position that Soper energetically tried to reclaim. Charlie Lamb, the Schnitzer team boss, saw his man in 3rd behind Radisich and David Leslie, who now had control of the race, and those positions would remain unchanged to the finish. Good performance from Leslie, who beaten the winner of the World Touring Car Challenge at Monza into 2nd, and Soper into 3rd. The other places, Rob Gravett 4th, Dave Coyne 5th on his touring car debut, and the unfairly maligned Tiffany Dell in 6th place. But David Leslie of the Ecuriacos team had a £12,000 cheque and a victory to remember. And Nigel Mansell, whatever else he achieves in his great career, he won't forget the 10 seconds he had at the old hairpin.